Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Service Transformation podcast, where we're going to be discussing the challenges faced by today's service leaders and the processes and solutions that can help them turn them into sources of competitive advantage. Today, my colleague, Anik Perry, partner at Noventum, will facilitate this session and is being joined by Melanie Apt from Aquant, who are a personalized service-focused AI vendor who was recently recognized as a challenger by CB Insights, a renowned market intelligence firm, in its ESP, that's execution, strength, and position in Matrix for agent support tools. I'm Giacomo Squintani. I'm the Service Business Forum Community Manager. I'll be your host today, but now I'm going to hand over to Anik and Melanie for today's conversation. Enjoy.
Thank you, Giacomo. And first of all, thanks a lot, Melanie, for being with us today and to tell us all on how Aquant can help companies to improve the efficiency of their service business. But before we start, would you like to take a few minutes to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks a million for having me. It's a pleasure being with you, Anik. My name is Melanie Abt, and I'm VP Sales EMEA at Aquant. And together with my team, I'm building the business in the EMEA region. And yes, as Giacomo already said, we deliver an AI solution that is tailored to the service world. And we were already founded 8 years ago when nobody talked about AI and when there were only a few AI startups. But our founders, Asaf and Shahar, they already had an extensive experience with software solutions in the service sector. And they realized that neither of them could help customers improving KPIs like the first time fix rate or reducing the resolution time, or something like what the Americans call the pause shotgunning, when a service technician is trying to exchange every single part and hope that one of them will fix the issue. And there was no solution that was able to help everyone along the service lifecycle. So this is why they founded Aquant 8 years ago, because they already saw the demand, they saw the skills gap that we have in service. And they were right. So we're an AI company, and what is very typical for AI companies is that we love data. And this is why we do a lot of benchmarking. And we collected service data over the last couple of years, and we analyzed them on a yearly basis. You can read those benchmarks as well. We have one which is across all industries, and then we have some industry-specific benchmarks as well, like the one that we have for the med device, for example. But if you look to that data, on average, and that is now across all organizations and across all different industries, a failed first visit leads to 3 visits in total to resolve the issue. And as a consequence, that adds 2 weeks to the resolution time. And of course, this is not what your customers are expecting. So there's definitely a need for a solution that helps customers.
Indeed, and that numbers already show also that there is a lot to gain in terms of efficiency in the service world. Mm-hmm. In one of our most recent events within the Service Business Forum community, we conducted a research into how service organizations can best leverage AI in the service world. Mm-hmm. And one of the key priority areas that was mentioned in that research was knowledge management. How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, first of all, it was a great event, and I'm already looking forward to the next one. It was great to meet a lot of service leaders and understand what's keeping them awake at night. And you're right, we talked a lot about knowledge management. So for me, the AI is the key that could open the treasure that every single organization already has in place. And that treasure includes something like the manuals and the training videos that every organization uses to onboard new service technicians, all the technical documentation. And that documentation maybe already in something like a knowledge management solution, or let's call it a knowledge database, or they just have it on a SharePoint. What we see with a lot of our customers is definitely that the data is spread across multiple sources, and that makes it so difficult for field service technicians or call center agents to find the information they need when they need it. So when they're standing in front of a machine with a customer and the machine is broken and they have to fix it, or when they've got an angry customer on the phone. So the key is not only having the information somewhere, but to have it at your fingertips when you need it. And it's as well, I think, important to make sure that the answer you get, that it is relevant for the specific problem, and that the data is used in the right context. And this is where AI can help.
Okay, great. Thanks for explaining this. We also discovered that one of the biggest challenges is, of course, in the service business, that a lot of those experienced technicians are sort of about to retire, and the new young generation is sometimes shying away from becoming a technician because it's perhaps not that sexy. How does the Aquant Copilot solution help companies to really cope with this challenge?
Yeah, I'd love to have that conversation around is it sexy or not, but let's start with what you just said about those that are leaving the workforce. And you're absolutely right. So what we found out is over the last years, 30% of the information to resolve an issue accurately is in the heads of the service veterans. It's not at all in the technical documentation. And that makes it super tricky, because if those people then leave the workforce, they will take away that knowledge. And, these are the people that have been with your company for 10, 20, 30 years, or even longer, sometimes decades. And yeah, when they will retire, they'll increase, or they make that skills gap even larger. And I think, I'm not sure if companies are really aware of the fact that they're losing one of their most valuable assets. So these professionals, who have already encountered every equipment issue imaginable, these people empathize deeply with the customer's challenges. And, they've got that intuitive understanding of factors like the environment, so where is the asset located, and like the history, so what has happened to that asset in the past. And these two factors, they influence the diagnosis and the resolution. And these people, they might hear a sound of the machine and they might already know what the problem is. And of course, that's information that is not in the data. And when we talk about the environment, so the way to fix an issue might be different when the machine sits in the Brazilian rainforest or at the North Pole, because the environment is completely different. So just a number for Germany, as I'm German, 400,000 people will leave the German workforce every single year from now on. That's a huge number. And companies urgently need to utilize this tribal knowledge before those people retire. And so we talked about knowledge management, but to me, it's not just knowledge management. It's so much more. It's the combination of the documentation, the historical data, so like the work orders and cases that you have in your CRM system or your field service management solution, and that combined with that tribal knowledge. And if you bring the three together, this is when the magic happens.
Yeah, wow, that's indeed, it's that combination of all these things and having it available at the right moment that does the trick. But there will be some service leaders perhaps listening now with some skepticism, because AI cannot always be trusted. Like there are some cases that we all heard about where it's not entrusted. What would you like to say to them? Like, what's your message to them?
So first of all, when there's something new, there's always skepticism, and that is totally fair. It is not in our DNA, it's not in our nature that we immediately embrace change. So we need to be convinced, and I think that's fair. So like a couple of years ago, people were so much afraid that AI will take their jobs. And I think, first of all, we need to be super clear. AI in this scenario, it will not at all replace people. It's still the pilot who's flying the plane and not the co-pilot. The co-pilot, it will accompany you along your journey and it will give you advice. But in the end, it's the human being who's making the decision, not the AI. And in the end, it's the human being who will fix the problem. So what AI can deliver to organizations is it can increase efficiency and effectiveness, and it can reduce the training time for those new and untrained technicians, like the younger generation you just mentioned. So what our customers report to us is that with a quant, we can reduce the onboarding time by up to 50%. That means cutting in at half. And what we hear from our customers, I don't know what you hear, but we hear that onboarding can take 1.5 years, or with very complex equipment, even 3 years. So if you could cut that in half, that's a huge cost benefit. And then we have to take the human factor into consideration as well. So you said that job isn't sexy, but what makes it sexy? What makes it sexy is when you've got fun. And when do you have fun? You have fun when you've got success. So when you're sent to a customer and are supposed to fix a problem and you don't know how to do it, you won't have fun. You'll leave the customer side being frustrated. But when they've got the right solutions at their fingertips and they find the problem and can fix it, they'll have success. And when they'll have success, they'll have fun. So what I would say is take care of your employees, give them the tools they need, and then they take care of your customers. And, when we think about what deeply motivates us, and that counts as well for the Gen Z, it's mastery. So when we just like to get better at stuff. So the better we are, the more fun we have, and then there's no reason to leave that job again. And coming to our benchmark report is, we love to talk about numbers. What we found out is if every employee had the knowledge and the skills to perform at the same level as the top 20% of your workforce, you could reduce cost by 22%. Germany is in a recession right now. Europe is doing better as a whole, but still a lot of challenges going on in the work in the industry. Everybody is searching for opportunities to reduce cost. And here is one. Think about the service cost that you have and deduct 22%, what this will mean for your organization. And, very often it's then as well the service veterans that are skeptical in the beginning of a process like that. Of course, they don't need a solution like that. They don't know, they know everything on top of their head. But then when they realize, oh, now I'm getting fewer calls from the juniors because they now work with a co-pilot and don't ask me all the simple questions, that will free up their time. And these people are very often overworked and stressed out. So in the end, it will help them as well. And by that, we can convince them too.
That's very interesting what you mentioned. First of all, this focus on service cost, because it's not only reducing costs, but at the same time improving the customer experience. Because still what they want are technically experienced technicians in front of them. So there's both sides of the coin where it will help. I just want to pick up on what you said about these experienced service technicians, because you say they will receive less phone calls from the more junior technicians. Mm-hmm. And that's very true. And I also hear sometimes experienced technicians complaining about it, but underneath they also sometimes see it as a sign of recognition of their expertise if they receive that many calls. And that might be something that you take away with the co-pilot solution. Do you face any customers that saw that as a challenge, and how do they cope with that?
Yeah, Anik, that's a good question and a tricky one. So it's not so easy to answer it. And I think it very much depends on the customer. And what we always have to do when we are in a change project with our customers is what motivates experts? What motivates them? And, if they enjoy helping younger technicians, they are probably aware that they can only handle one phone call at a time. But, if we could motivate them feeding in their know-how into our system, then they can help several people at the same time. So the impact they're getting is just broader. And then they could be known as well as the experts behind the quant. So probably something that could motivate them. And in that change management process, if we talk to service technicians, some of them just really want to get rid of annoying calls. Others really get purpose from solving very complex issues, like taking on challenges every single day. And when they're taking repetitive calls with very common and easy topics, that's just hindering them from fixing those challenges. So I think let's talk about two examples of a quant customers. Thinking about the first one, so we are doing QBRs with our customers on a quarterly basis and do a check-in where we are. And this is a customer where the president of service is always participating. And he's always asking, who contributed the most? And not only from a quantity perspective, but as well from a quality perspective. And then he's giving that person a huge shout out, and he's giving that person recognition and appreciation for their hard work and that they shared some of their knowledge. And then 15,000 people in the organization are reading it. So I get motivated easily by recognition. So if that works for them, just use this tool. Or another customer is using something like a gamification approach. So they use our dashboard where you can see who has provided feedback. And it has become something like a kind of a challenge, who contributed the most. And it's like a challenge to be on the top 3 of the feedback list. There are a lot of studies around what motivates people, and it's definitely taking the challenge, mastery, getting better at stuff, and then as well making a contribution to a wider group. If we just communicate that purpose, then human beings typically tend to share. So have that in mind when you talk to your service veterans. But did I answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Perhaps we talked about the skepticism still about AI. Yeah. Perhaps you can say something. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. So the skepticism, probably it's good in a way that it is there. So look at the skepticism the right way. So when we think about legal implications, we need to consider that when we work on an AI project, because you will be liable for an AI giving a wrong answer. So I think the technology must go hand in hand with governance to make sure that the governance is ensured. And think about a scenario where you're giving an AI solution in the hands of your customers. so that they will be able to do something like a self-service. So they diagnose the problem themselves instead of giving you a phone call. Then the accuracy needs to be super high. It needs to be above 90% because your customers will hold you accountable for those answers. So don't just work with any AI solution, but with the right AI solution that is ensuring that governance. And as well, think about that customer self-service scenario. We see a lot of customers who use that as well as a revenue stream. So making a profit center out of service instead of only being a cost center, giving that knowledge base to their end customers and getting a subscription in return.
Good. Thank you. So yeah, both this governance, and having the solution, and you shared a lot of numbers that show, okay, why should companies invest in the Quant solution? But why should companies make the decision to buy a solution like a Quant rather than developing such a solution themselves?
Yeah, that's that build versus buy conversation.
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation with a lot of our customers. And I think, as we just talked about governance is a crucial component of that answer. So now with the invention of ChatGPT, people think it's now like the key to lift the treasure. And the first pilots show some interesting results, but be careful because there are some traps you can fall into. And a lot of our customers show us what they've built. And what we see is you ask the same question twice, you're getting two different answers, not liable, or difficult from a liability perspective. And what we see as well is that ChatGPT is then having hallucinations and it's making up stuff that was never in the data. Very dangerous as well. So think about your technicians that understand your products. Will they trust a solution like that is giving different answers and making up stuff? Probably not. And think about adoption. When they don't trust it, will they ever use it? I guess not. And the question is, why to develop something from scratch when it is already there? And it helps you lift your treasure on the one hand side and ensuring governance on the other hand. And, as I said, a Quant has already been founded 8 years ago. And our R&D team has been working on such a solution for such a long time. And they've made, I can say, every considerable mistake along the way. And that's quite normal. So we learned from those mistakes. We've done that learning curve already. So why do you want to do that learning curve as well? So this is why large European companies like Siemens, ABB, Volvo, Schneider Electric already work with us. And in general, I'm asking customers, why do you want to build it your own? So from my point of view, it makes sense to build something on your own when it is part of your USP. So I drive a Tesla. I love my Tesla. It's the car where you get the most horsepower per euro. But besides that, I love the software. I love the usability. I love it that I get updates like on a weekly basis and get new functionality. The software is part of Tesla's USP. So this is why they build it on their own. And I totally agree they have to. That's their key differentiator. But, when we talk about service, I think companies distinguish themselves through the way and the quality of their service, not through the tool with which they diagnose the problem. So I think organizations should focus on their core skills, which is like delivering outstanding service experience. And they should buy the expertise where it's not their core competency. And I'm a little bit surprised that so many companies are thinking about building it, because nobody would think about building an ERP system or building a CRM system. So I think it has been understood in the meantime that there are experts out there from whom you buy solutions like that.
Which have already proven to work, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the end, it's all about like unlocking that treasure. Take available solutions for that and concentrate on your customer experience, that this one is great. Concentrate on improving your service processes. And then what we see as well, a lot of customers don't have or don't track too many KPIs. Make a decision on which KPIs you want to measure and then track them and identify goals on how you want to improve on those KPIs. I think this is way more important than developing a solution from scratch. And that's probably as well like the point where I'd love to talk about our USP for a second, if I may. So it's not only the combination of the documentation and the historical data and the tribal knowledge. What we know as well when we diagnose the problem is we know the history of that asset we are standing in front of. That means that specific serial number. And we know what happened to that asset. We know exactly what has been replaced, what has been repaired, what has been calibrated. And when we calibrated something already 3 times, the AI would not recommend to calibrate it again. It will then probably recommend to replace something. So the AI takes the history of the serial number into consideration. And this is why we call it personalized AI. So it means that the AI is giving a personalized solution to that specific asset based on the history. And this is what right now only we can do.
Yeah. And what shows a real sign of intelligence in that respect. Great. Melanie, one of my last questions. What do you see as the biggest barrier for companies to start with AI? Because a lot of companies are talking about it, but not many of them have real AI use cases at the moment. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah. What everybody is telling us, look, I don't have good data, so I can't start an AI project. I have to clean it up first before I give it to you. And honestly, we've never ever seen someone having good or even great data. So don't worry about the data quality. It's not the core competency of a service technician to put in every single step he or she did into a CRM solution or FSM solution. Their core competency is to fix problems. So, just start with what you have, and the Acorns AI engine will then be able to extract the gold out of your not so good data.
Good. So you don't have to wait until you have your data cleaned up. That's great. And last but not least, what advice would you give to companies that are looking to execute an AI project in service?
Good question. So a lot of organizations are used to large IT projects. They like a description of how the solution looks like, and then they approach 10 different vendors and then make an RFI and an RFP, and then they do a POC and the pilot and whatever. Not in the world of AI. Just get started. So you'll know quickly if the solution will do what you want it to do. And what companies, I think, should avoid as well is like fixing everything all at once. Try to limit the scope. Look to like quick wins. Look to, let's say, 1, 2, 3 models where you've got the biggest problems, the biggest pain. Focus on those and start a pilot for those. And then if you work with a quant, we just ingest all the manuals and documentation. You go live within 2 weeks. And then we typically work with 2 testing groups. One is then powered by a quant, while the other one is working with the already existing solutions. And then we ask them very complex questions and want to understand, how long does it take until they find a solution? How accurate is it? And is it complete? And then based on that, we can calculate a business case together. take that business case, then go to your leadership team and say, look, this is what we achieved in a 2-4 week pilot. So if we would roll that out, this is what it would mean for us as a whole, as an organization. So just try it out. Just do it.
Good. So really use a proven case to convince the senior management to invest in it. Great. Thanks a lot, Melanie. I think, Giacomo.
Hello, and thank you both for your insights into the challenges and the opportunities. And I would ever so quickly, firstly, in the interest of time, we want to be respectful of people's time. If you have any questions, please either drop them in this chat or on the LinkedIn event page, and we will make sure we get back to you. On the topic of events, I just wanted to mention that the next Service Business Forum event will take place in Düsseldorf towards the end of September, and we would greatly value your contributions before and during the event. So I'll be posting these links into the chat, but just by sharing your views on how digital can help with that customer service transformation journey. We've heard about AI. In Düsseldorf, we'll be looking at digital and how that can empower it. By sharing your experiences and your views, you will automatically receive a copy of the summary report, but I would urge you to come and join us, be part of the debate on site, where we will discuss those initial findings and later produce a final report with your input, your experiences to boost that. So again, any questions on today's topic, please share them with us and we'll get back to you. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today's session as much as I did, and I wish you every success with your AI project.